My kingdom for a pension. Yeah, pension. I remember when my dad told me just a couple of years ago how much his pension is. He was a teacher for, I believe, almost 40 years at a college in California. When he told me, I was driving. I almost drove off the road. His pension that he gets on an annual basis is more than I have ever made in a year in my whole career working. What was it? Around $80,000 a year. That's his pension. I nearly drove off the road. He's like, "You okay?" I go, "Yeah, it's a lot more than I expected." But I guess 40 years as a professor, yeah, okay. Maybe even low, all right? But guys, we get 401ks now. We get IRAs. My kingdom for a pension. Yeah, I mean, so what happened when they created 401ks? And are 401ks overrated? Are they even good for us nowadays? I've got some pros and cons for you coming up pretty quick here. But when they created the 401k, they shifted all the responsibility to the individual instead of the company, right? And think about pensions nowadays. How many people really have them? Not that many. If I would take a poll of my friends, maybe 1, 2 might have a pension. Now, when I'm talking a pension, I'm talking about a real chunky pension, not something that's going to give you $200 a month or something, right? Something you can live off of. If not all your expenses are covered, the majority of them are. But yeah, they shifted the responsibility to the individual. For some of us, that can be a good thing. If you are any ways savvy in investing, that can be a good thing. But you know what? The bulk of people are not. And yet they are expected to find out what to do with their 401k. What do I invest in? A lot of people they don't even bother with it. But one good thing is that employers now are automatically enrolling people in 401ks. A lot more as the years go by. That is definitely a good thing. So, pros and cons of 401ks. Let's get to the cons first. And you tell me at the end of this, are 401ks overrated? Guys, before I get to that, leave me comments. How many of you have 401ks? How many of you have IRAs? How many of you have pensions? Write in. Let me know what you got. You don't have to tell me how much you got in them, but I'm just very curious. What kind of retirement savings plan do you have? So here are 5 cons of 401ks. Withdrawal restrictions. In most cases, you cannot withdraw without a penalty before 59 and a half. Now, in some cases, you can do this if over 55 if the company you retired from is the holder of your 401k, all right? But in most cases, 59 and a half, got to wait till then, or you get a hefty withdrawal penalty. When I was working, I was tempted a couple times to take early withdrawals. I didn't. Thank God. I did take a loan to buy a house. That's it. Number 2, in some cases, you have limited investment options as opposed to, let's say, an IRA. Okay. Now, it depends on the 401k. I still have the bulk of my retirement savings in a 401k. Why? Because I'm happy with the investment options. I have no problem with them. I'm happy in what I'm invested in. Most of my stuff is invested in index funds via target date funds. Yeah, it may be very simplistic to some people, but when I started out, I wasn't doing that. When I started out, I was choosing individual stocks. And you know what, guys? I got hammered. I learned very quickly, you know what? I don't know enough about investing to choose individual stocks. I quickly went to a target date retirement fund, which is basically the vast majority is index funds. Number 3, con, possible high fees. All right. Again, I am lucky in that case. What is my fee for my 401k? It is 0.06%. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Some fees are much higher in 401k's plan. So that is a potential con. RMDs. For 401ks, you have to start taking RMDs. I believe it's at 73 now. What are those? Required minimum distributions. Okay. For some of you, that can be an issue. If you have a big nest egg, those RMDs could hurt you when it comes to tax time. So RMDs, a con of 401ks. And the last one I have is a potential for higher taxes / higher income. I don't know for people on moderate retirement income. And hey, for those of you who see me for the first time, that's what this channel is all about. Retiring on a moderate income. If you think you might like that, think about subscribing and like the video as well. And if you really like it, down here are 2 other ways you can further support the channel. So potential for higher taxes, what does that mean? That means if you are making higher income when you're retired, which some people, if they have a big nest egg when it comes to RMDs, they may be in a higher tax bracket than when they were working. For most people, I don't think that's an issue, but for some, it can be. So what are the pros for 401ks? Tax advantages, right? Deferred taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on these until you retire. So what does that do? That lets your money grow in a tax deferred account until you're ready to retire. Compounding, that's another good thing about 401ks. Compounding, I'll throw it in with number 1 because I didn't have it listed under the pros. Compounding, throw it in there, watch it grow, man. After 10 years, you'll start seeing it. 5 years, not so much. 20 years, yes. 30 years, oh my God. Yeah, it really takes effect. The second pro, employer match. Some companies are very generous with this. You know what? I almost stepped in. I don't know if you guys saw my previous video. There are werewolves up here where I'm at. Today, not so much because it's clear, not cloudy. I almost stepped in some werewolf poo. Company employer match. I think for a lot of companies, it's like if you are willing to, invest a certain amount. For me, it was 6%. Then the employer match started. That's free money. That is free money. Depending on the company, some are very generous with their employer match. So that's a definite pro. Number 3, as I mentioned before, automatic enrollment. This is getting more and more prevalent now for people. When you join a company, they automatically enroll you in the 401k program. It's up to you to opt out if you don't want to be in it. And that makes it easier to start saving. Because if you're like me and a lot of people, much harder to opt out of something if you're already signed up to it. It's like, yeah, I don't know about this. I'll get to it eventually. That eventually might not come for like 2, 3, 4 years. By that time, you look at your balance, it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is a good thing, right? And also, once you start and that deduction is taken out of your check, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is, you just get buying what you got, right? You get used to it. The 4th pro is high contribution limits for a 401k. 401ks can have higher contribution limits than IRAs, right? That is a pro of the 401k plan. So yeah, you got to judge the pros and cons here. And a lot of it comes down to on an individual basis, what is best for you? Is a 401k good for you? For some people, they might say no. A lot of people take their 401ks after they're retired, switch it over to an IRA. Some might even withdraw a whole bunch of money and try and invest it on their own, okay? So it really comes down to a case-by-case basis. The 5th pro, loan options. Like I said before, I took out a loan from my 401k to pay for my first house. Wasn't that much, $20,000 I think it was at the time. This was a long time ago. But you have that option, and you can pay, and most loans in writing, they say you need to pay us back for this. Okay, so I took $20,000 out. That's less for compounding to act on, but I did it for a good reason. I couldn't have afforded a nice down payment on a house just with the savings I had. That's a pretty good deal. And the number 6 pro, protection from creditors. If you have a 401k, in a lot of instances, creditors cannot touch that. If you get into some, problem, they can't touch that. Not always, but in a lot of cases they can't. Another good pro. So when it comes down to it, guys, are 401ks overrated? Hey, if we all had pensions, pensions for all. That's the one I decree. I decree pensions for all. Hey, if we all had pensions, If you have a pension as opposed to a 401k, yeah, 401ks are overrated. But you know what? If that's your only option, it's really not that bad of an option compared to a lot of others, compared to just saving on your own. Hey, you don't have that employer match if you save on your own, right? So it comes down to a case-by-case basis. What are your options for saving for retirement? That's it. You decide. Let me know what you think. And as always, from above, downtown LA, we got this.